Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'm going to discuss some of the most notable Tory drama to emerge since my last video on the same topic yesterday. But I'd also like to explain how it has wider implications if the party leadership doesn't act quickly or effectively on them. And of course, worse still, if they don't act at all. There's actually a danger that if I don't exercise some discipline here, that this just becomes the election drama channel for the next few weeks. But there are manifestos being released this week. We've had one, we're having one today. So I'm going to have to find time to discuss normal election matters as well. But holy cow, is everyone making it hard? The stuff that's blown up in the last 24 hours means if I've got time, I may have to do 4 long form videos today. And I'd still feel important stuff's been missed out. You know, we're just trying to get our own fascists under control. Then continental Europe decides to vote a load more into power. Although, again, people are losing their minds over it. It hasn't actually changed anything at the EU level. The good news is they've made gains. They've not taken any control. And even the gains they make, people are amplifying it because they're thinking, oh, look at this far right bloc. It's like, yeah, but they don't like each other. It's like Liz Truss and Suella Braverman trying to work together. It's not happening. But it has caused a major reaction in France. But although I'll have to see if I can squeeze some of my thoughts about that in somewhere, I'm not sure I will. I predominantly focus on Westminster politics, and that is blowing up as well. Because the Tory campaign is going from bad to worse. If Sunak crashed the ship into the rocks last week by leaving D-Day earlier, then the ship has now exploded and is leaking oil into the sea, which is also catching fire and immolating the seals and dolphins. Basically, things are going very badly for Sunak. Regular viewers will know that I had cast doubt on this nonsense of polls narrowing for a while now. When this time came, Sunak doesn't know the first thing about politics, nor does his team. Or if any do, they are either staying very quiet because they're just enjoying having the money and don't want to rock the boat, or just for a laugh, or they're not being listened to. But I am still surprised by the carnage Sunak is causing to his party here. And there are 24 more days of this. First of all, there's an update on one of the issues I discussed yesterday. So a Tory councillor campaigning for the local Conservative candidate actually mocked the Labour candidate for completing a parachute jump into Normandy for D-Day, and the jump was for charity. So this Tory brain donor was ridiculing a veteran for raising money for veterans on D-Day. It did not go down well, and they were forced to apologise and donate to the charity in order to try and draw a line under it. But this was not the Tory candidate, just their sidekick. The candidate turned out to be way worse. I'm assuming they must have attended a fun fair or something locally, because someone asked the candidate, Gavin Horan, if he'd knocked the coconut off. Horan replied that he had not, but was hoping to remove at least one coconut from his perch later this year. Horan's Labour opponent is black. This is much worse. Now the actual Tory candidate has racially abused a veteran who was raising money for veterans on D-Day. Good luck hoping this one blows over, at least locally. If the Tories are lucky, it will be suppressed nationally due to the sheer scale of the political inferno sweeping through Britain and now Europe. But it still raises another headache for Sunak, because by the time this video goes live, really Sunak should have withdrawn this candidate. I'm out this morning, so I'm having to record this quite a bit ahead of publication. If Sunak hasn't withdrawn this candidate, then he invites not just accusations of not caring about racism regarding donors, but in his own candidates as well. And it will also draw attention to the abuse of veterans angle. Sunak saying, oh, yeah, he's got total respect for veterans. Well, have you? Have you? Because your candidate doesn't, and he's still your candidate. So it's going to bring back Sunak's own indiscretion last week, particularly if Labour managed to make something big out of it. But if Sunak does withdraw the candidate, then a winnable seat suddenly goes out the window. I mean, being honest, all of this probably means Labour are in pole position there anyway. But this was definitely a seat the Tories had a decent chance of retaining. And it's not like they can lightly abandon winnable seats. But of course, the problem is that this Horan idiot can actually cost votes for Conservative candidates all over the country if the party backs him. So they surely have to drop him if they haven't already. But then decision making around Sunak has not been brilliant. Their instinct, just as it was under Johnson, is to double down and only U-turn under the most extreme pressure. Which brings me to the Tory party chair, Richard Holden. Now, Holden's offences are nowhere near as bad as Horan's outside of the Conservative Party, although actual Tories may be more offended by Holden's antics than Horan's racism may be. But Holden is more senior, so attracts more media attention. Now, I've already mentioned last week, Holden had abandoned the North East, where he was an MP in the Parliament just gone, and ran for a safe seat 300 miles away in Essex. Only it's not a safe seat this year. None of them are. But this one in particular is not at all safe. But it is a better bet than where he was, I suppose. The local Tories in his new seat did not welcome his arrival, as he displaced another candidate, and they don't really like him anyway, and they've now refused to campaign for him. But journalists have been trying to tackle Holden over his dirty dealing in leaving the region he said he was committed to and displacing a colleague for his own selfish needs. This culminated in a Sky journalist getting really irate at him as Holden's handler then cut the interview short. If you're going to make my client answer questions, we're leaving. It's worth a watch if you can view Twitter videos. I will link it in the description below. You may have seen a shortened version. There's a longer version. Essentially, Holden is being asked about his cowardly chicken run. And he keeps, every time he's asked the question, he says, oh, Labour and taxes, Labour and taxes. And right, and he asks it again, Labour and taxes. You know, he's got these pre-scripted lines about Labour and taxes. The journalist asks him again and again, and Holden keeps talking about Labour again. At which point the journalist just gets fed up and has a go at him. But what came after is brilliant. It would appear that quite a few Tories really hate Holden. There's some actually expressed a desire, they've not been named. They've spoken to journalists anonymously. But they've actually expressed a desire that Labour actually beat him. I mean, how mad is this now? You've got Tory candidates hoping that Labour beats their own party chair. That's mad. Holden has committed the ultimate sin, really. See, it's one thing to shit on the public and the country, and you're actively encouraged to lie, cheat and steal from political opponents. But you're not supposed to stab each other in the back. At least not unless it's for a leadership contest, at least. But the way Holden is conducting himself in interviews will also mean he comes across as very selfish with the public as well as his party. And because he's the party chair, that reflects way worse than the Tories. Especially, he's not just, when I say he's senior, he's not just senior. He's, in the context of the general election, he's the second most senior political member of the election campaign. Because the party chair coordinates campaigns. Yes, technically they've now supposedly got the professionals running day-to-day operations, but he is still, as party chair, he still has a leading role in theory over the campaign. You know, so another one that Sunak, if he had any political intelligence, would be dealing with. I don't think he can realistically sack him during a campaign, but he needs to get Holden to at least wind his neck in. But I don't think this is going to happen because I think this was a general Conservative strategy, because a journalist from the ITV approached Conservative press office about Holden's awful response. And do you know what they did? They responded with the same pre-scripted line about Labour and taxes, just as Holden had been trying. So it's now looking like it's an actual, not just Holden being an idiot, but a party strategy. It's like they think if all they say to any question is Labour and taxes, that journalists will be forced to publish that. But it's like, no, they can choose instead to draw attention to the fact that Tory politicians are taking the public for fools and refusing to answer questions. But the fact that the press office responded like this shows, as I say, it's not just Holden who's an idiot. It's their entire operation. Mind you, I think we were sort of suspecting that anyway, weren't we? That the Tories can have someone who cannot even handle tricky media questions in the two most senior positions of the campaign goes some way in explaining why their campaign is like a ship that's run aground, caught fire, spilled oil, which has also caught fire and is now barbecuing the cutest dolphins and seals known to mankind. However, I mean, I'm not sure how bad people really thought this campaign was going to be. People, as I say, who watch my videos will know, I thought it was going to be bad. You know, everyone was going, polls are going to narrow, polls are going to narrow. I thought, well, you know, I might narrow a bit, but no, Sunak's awful. But however bad anyone thought this campaign was going to be for the Tories, it's surely much worse. I refuse to believe anyone thought that all this shit would actually happen. Even in the midst of a general election campaign with just over 3 weeks to go, Tory candidates, whether experienced or not, are simply incapable of maintaining discipline. You know, when people criticised Sunak, they thought, how could he think it was acceptable to leave D-Day early? And you think, but his entire team must have thought so as well. And then you think, but you've also got a Conservative candidate who thought it was acceptable to racially abuse a veteran raising money for other veterans on D-Day. Like, it's a rot through the entire party. It's not just that their leader is useless. In fact, Sunak's incompetence is not actually the problem. It's just a symptom of the problem. Even Steve Baker seems to be reveling in the chaos, or he's just given up or demob happy, I don't know. And the problem, of course, is the Conservatives chose to pursue the most insane policy since Carthage decided to let the Romans off with a warning. And now they're bereft of any leaders with any political intelligence. If the Tories hadn't picked Sunak to lead them, do you know what? It would have been a different idiot instead. As actually it was for a few weeks. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.